Now you can manage, deploy, and scale your AI agents to production with just a couple of lines of code through power of Agent Engine on GCP. You must check it out. Then, let's go! Alright, let's get into Vertex AI Agent Engine and what is the value of it and how do we need that for deploying and productionizing our AI agents with minimum efforts. So here, as you can see at the center of my screen, we have this managed runtime infrastructure. This is really the most short answer of what is Agent Engine. It's all about a managed deployment for you that you can host your agents here under GCP, obviously, that can give you a lot of different benefits that you need them for productioning your AI agents. To give you an example, monitoring and logging, which is a very important component to make sure you have it in place when you deploy your agents, or tracing. That means you want to understand all the ins and outs of what goes through your agents and tools and how they are multiply working together. That is important to have observability in place and evaluation of that when the model is deployed or the agent is deployed. You want to make sure you can keep evaluating them or monitoring them as you go further. And security controls, adding some access controls or virtual network capabilities to make sure you control on who can access to the agents and how the agents can be executed. These are just a couple of main benefits that you get from Agent Engine. And on backend, what is Agent Engine? It's all about a managed cloud run instance on GCP, or better to say, a serverless managed container instance that is running for you, and you don't need to really develop and maintain by yourself or customize and configure all the infrastructure to deploy the agent. And we talk about agent, well, obviously there are different types of language models you can use for your agents, or different tools, different frameworks to create your agents. But the good news is it is all the way language model agnostic and even agent framework agnostic. So that means you can have Google ADK or Agent Development Kit, LangChain, LangGraph, Lambda, there are a couple of them. We'll go through that shortly. That you can have that being used to create your agent and deploy to Agent Engine. Or any foundation model, Gemini here as an instance. And tools and extensions, that means if your agents are using APIs, databases, or Python function as a tool, you're all good. You can still deploy your agent to do Agent Engine. To give you a better idea of Agent Engine in general, this is a high-level architecture of what it is. So at the center here, as you can see, you have this Agent Engine that is, again, managed containerized instance for your cloud run that is hosting your agent. Obviously, because it's running on a server, you can enjoy some of the in-memory capabilities of your agent that is managed by Agent Engine by itself, although you can use external databases for, let's say, your long-term memory of your agent as well. But there's always a memory coming in with Agent Engine that can be used for memory for your agent. Now, for the frameworks that you can use to create your agents, here are a couple of them. You can see that LangGraph, LangChain, LlamaIndex, Cray, and AG2 are just a couple of them. And even if you have potentially some agent frameworks or your own custom frameworks that is not listed here, you can go and create your own custom class of defining your agent based on the code references that comes with Agent Engine to be able to still deploy your agent even you didn't use any of these Python libraries to create your agent. Now, obviously, for connecting your agents and tools, these are some mainly supported ones, like some built-in tools that come with GCP and Gemini, let's say Google search engine or built-in code executor. These are some tools that comes with your agents if you use Gemini with ADK or Agent Development Kit to create your agents. Some potentially custom tools if you want to have in place, some databases, Google Cloud tools, external tools, and MCP as well. So you have the freedom of connecting your agents to anything you want and be able to deploy them on Agent Engine. We talked about a little bit of evaluation. There are some built-in Vertex AI metrics that you can call them and execute them over your deployed agent to assess how your agent is working based on the use case and type of activity your agent is doing. And something I want to highlight more is observability. This is very important to have in place, not only for monitoring what's going on with your instance from aspect of server, like how many requests you're receiving, what is the performance of your CPU, which we call it sort of on cloud monitoring. But also logging anything you want to specify in the code to log the error, log this output, log this parameter. You can still do that and have that all the way go to GCP logging. And Cloud Trace, which is a place that you can check out all different inputs and outputs that goes to your agents and their tools and potentially the language models. All right, so here's a high-level overview of how you start creating your agent and then deploy them to Agent Engine. Starting from left, you obviously need to first develop your agent. Here, for example, is a local agent that I'm creating, again, like ADK or LangChain. Your agent is created and we store that in a parameter called local agent. Then the next session is deploy. You need to actually call this agent engine.create, which comes from Agent Engine package, and two things you need to provide. Well, there are some optional parameters, but here are the main parameters you need to have. First, the agent name that you want to deploy, which is here, and then the requirements. Requirements are a list of Python packages that you need to install on that engine to be able to deploy your AI agent and let it run. So this is actually the parameter you need to specify. And then that's it. Later on, you can update this engine even after creation, but for now, after running this, your agent engine will be deployed. After that, you will have an endpoint. That means you can call your agent like an endpoint or API call. So to give you an example, I'm calling this remote agent and I can do just query or even streaming the query. That means as language model or agent is generating response, I want to see that displayed, not just really waiting for the final answer. And then manage here, this remote agent that I have created, I can delete or get, list, store potentially like my agent engines that I have, so on and so forth. There are a list of actions that you can do even after the agent is deployed under Agent Engine. All right, so we mainly talk about some of the main benefits that comes with Agent Engine. First of all, it is really managed. You don't need to really deal with any infrastructure. It is scalable, so it's a good idea for production. And you can interact with this deployed agent through Agent Engine, like an API or endpoint or CURT command. So you have the full flexibility. But something I want to specify more is the monitoring and observability capabilities that comes for your agent when you have your agent deployed on Agent Engine. So there are three main components when we talk about monitoring and observability. The first one is cloud logging, second one is cloud trace, and third one is cloud monitoring. So at the beginning, they might look a little bit same, but they are fundamentally different and absolutely different. So to give you a bit more understanding of what's the difference here, let's go through the differences and some examples that what do we mean by having these for your deploy agent that Agent Engine provided. So the first one we talked about cloud trace. So cloud trace is the timeline of requests as your agent responds to each query. So that means with enabling this, I will be able to have like a Gantt chart on the Google Cloud Trace, which is a service that shows me the interaction, what agent was called, what was the input, the output, the tools that has been executed and called. And for enabling this, we will see that in the code, in the demo, but to show you a quick overview, but just enabling tracing to true when you create your agent, whether it's LangChain or whatever, and you're deploying an agent engine, you're enabling Google Cloud Trace be able to capture these interactions of your agents and the components that they're using. Now, the second one is cloud logging. This is again for capturing logs with different civil levels and structured data. That means, for example, if you want to capture a specific parameter or some errors or whatever you want to customize in your code, you have a couple of options. First, you can maybe use stdout. That means whenever you print anything in stdout, it will go all the way to the cloud logging of GCP. So you will see the parameter there. You can use Python logging. Like here, for example, I can use some logging info in my Python code to log a specific input, output, any parameter you want. And also you can use GCP Cloud Logging Client for even more control, more complex or more customizable scenario of what you want to specifically log within the code that you are creating and deploying the agent. And the third one is cloud monitoring. This is mainly about performance metrics. I would say maybe some potential infrastructure metrics. For example, amount of CPU, memory allocation, request counts. These are some of the built-in metrics that comes with GCP Cloud Monitoring, but obviously you can customize that and track them as you invoke your agents and you monitor your agents. To give you an example, you can specify a threshold for example, if the latency of your agent going beyond that value, you will get an alert. And that alert and monitoring is coming from GCP Cloud Monitoring Service. You're just adding that to your agent engine and the agent that you have deployed. All right. The other thing is security and permission for deployed agents. That means whenever you have your agent deployed, first of all, you need to make sure that the agent can authenticate to access to the tools, APIs, services that you have connected them to your agent as a tool. That's the first thing. And second thing, the agent by itself, when you deploy that, how are you going to assure that it is safe and sound aspect of who can access to and what permissions the agent has to fulfill the user request. So the first type is service account authentication. When you deploy your agent by default will have access to these services, like storage account database connections if you have them, and access to Google Cloud resources. Because Agent Engine will have a service account created by itself, that's like an identity, and the service account by itself has access to Google Cloud storage, and it should have also Vertex AI user role to be able to execute the agent work. But if you think your agent needs more permission, more control, you have to specify specific roles through maybe identity management or IAM in GCP to be able to enable additional permissions on the top of the agent. If your agent actually is using some API keys to connect to some databases or tools, you need to handle that and add it to the code of your agent. Obviously, you don't want to hard code a secret in the code that you're creating your agent or defining a tool. So a good idea is using secret manager inside GCP, which is a service that can host your secrets and safely retrieve them in the code without you actually hard coding any value of the secret. And obviously, if for a specific authentication by your agent, you need auth authentication, like handling user requests or registration logging for agents and user. This is also supported. You can do that by creating that in Google Cloud Console and store the secrets that you create from the auth platform client inside that secret manager that comes with GCP. So these are, again, just a couple of main examples that how you authenticate the agent through some different tools and services they have access to. And again, remember, the agent that you create by itself will have a service account. So it should have some default access that is mentioned, but also you can specify additional access to that service account of your agent if in general you want your agent to be able to execute or call other, for example, GCP products. All right, so before I go to the demo and create an end-to-end agent and deploy that to Agent Engine through some codes, I want to quickly start a checklist of what you need to do from start to finish to develop and deploy an agent to Agent Engine. First, you need to set up an environment. What do I mean by set up an environment? Obviously, you need to have a Google Cloud project to use Agent Engine and deploy your agent. Then secondly, you need to enable some APIs. For example, Vertex AI API should be enabled in GCP to be able to use Agent Engine. Cloud storage, logging, monitoring, and trace if you want to enable those observability capabilities of Agent Engine. Then, as I mentioned, each Agent Engine by itself comes with a service account, and that service account needs to have these minimum IAM permissions to be able to work. And then you need to create a Google Cloud Storage bucket. Why? Because when Agent Engine want to deploy your agent, it will use a storage for some intermediate files to store them. So this is not something to be worried about or check the files, but you just need a disk to be able to put some files and use it later to deploy the agent. And it will ask you that give me a storage. That's all you need to do, and you will see that I will do that in the code. And then you need to install Vertex AI SDK plus Agent Engine to be able to deploy your agent. And then you can initialize your connection to Vertex AI to be able to deploy your agent. So that's why obviously you need your project ID, location, and also that Google bucket that you want to use to put some temporary files that Agent Engine create to deploy your agent. Now, talking about deploying, obviously you need to first start with deciding on what agent framework you want to create. I created a dedicated video of how to use Google SDK to create an agent in Python. You can check this out, but obviously you're allowed to use any of this. Then you need to configure the model type. Like for example, if your language model want to have a specific temperature, max tokens, optional, up to you. You need to specify them. Then the tools you want to use to connect your agent depends on what you use. Like it's a LangChain, LangGraph, AG2. There are different tools and how you connect the tools to the agent. So based on the framework choice. Then set up chat history. If you want to have that managed sessions stored within the agent, you need to obviously define that. If you want to do some further customization on the templates, you can do. And then before you deploy your agent to Agent Engine, you can also test the agent locally. And I will show you in the code that you got to make sure the agent and the code, everything works before you bother and deploy to Agent Engine. Now, with deploy to Agent Engine, you need to specify what list of packages your agent needs to be able to run, like pip installs. Then with just calling Agent Engine create, with defining what agent you're deploying and what are your pip packages and maybe display name, you're done. You have deployed the agent. And you can verify that with checking the list of engines that you have created. And then you can also test with calling that endpoint that you deploy to make sure your Agent Engine is working properly. For monitoring capabilities and stuff, we're going to talk about that more, but you can obviously set up logging, enable tracing that I told you with enable tracing equal to true. That's going to start capturing the tracing in Google tracing on GCP. And you can specify some alerts based on metrics that we discussed. For example, latency is something that is captured by Google logging. Security and permissions, we already talked about that, but obviously these are some of the components that your agents can use on Agent Engine to connect to secondary databases, but also the agent by itself will be protected from how to call that, how we can authenticate to call it, and even potentially limiting from virtual networking capabilities if you need to be in a specific network to be able to call that agent, so it's not available through public internet. All right, now let's get into the code. Here you can see I have a Google Colab notebook. I will add the link to this Google Colab notebook to the Discord channel. The link of that is in video description below. You go to the channel, there's a reference section, you will get access to this code. Obviously, for starting, I need to install the packages that I need to deploy my agent, which is Google Cloud AI Platform, Agent Engine. And based on the type of the agent you're creating and the framework you're using, you're going to start obviously installing other packages here. I want to use LangChain as an example to create my agent. All right, I want to restart my kernel just in case. All good. Here, I mean to authenticate to my GCP to be able to actually utilize Agent Engine and deploy my agent there. So I will click on it. It will ask me to log in. Given that I have already done that, so it knows I got authenticated. And here I need to copy and paste my project ID, the location, and a storage bucket that I need for temporary place of saving the files and artifacts that Agent Engine create. To give you an example, I have already created a Google Cloud Storage bucket. I just want to copy the name of it. Ctrl C, here you are. So I will add it here. Right, and I will show you what Agent Engine will create after. Okay, I need to just maybe start from here. Then the project ID, you can obviously and easily get that from your Google Cloud project. So I will add it here, and the location that I'm going to use is going to be also US Central. So I run this cell. It should be able to initiate my connection to Vertex AI based on its components, and the code worked successfully. All right, so now I need to import some libraries that I need for deploy my agent. And as you can see, Agent Engine is imported from Vertex AI, and I'm also creating my agent through LangChain. So let's start with defining the model. For here, again, up to you. I'm using Gemini 2.0 Flash as an example. Then, of course, my agent want to be connected to some tools. That's why I want to have a function that can change the currency based on my question, and it will be using an API to convert that agency, for example, from USD to Euro. All right, the function has been defined, and then just make sure the function is working from USD to SDK. It is giving me the rate. I just called the API, nothing fancy. Then here I want to create my agent. Here we can use LangChain just as an example. How? With just defining the model, which is Flash, with defining the tool, which is a function we specified on the top. And here, agent executor, I can specify some again, just optional parameters here. I just want to make sure that it return the intermediate steps, not just the final answer. That's why I'm enabling that as true. Now, before I deploy this to Agent Engine, I want to test this agent locally. We're just calling the agent we specified here on the top. I'm just querying that with the question here. Let's run it. It might don't know what's the date of today, so it might not answer. Yes, okay, it's telling me provide the date. So it seems to be working. Actually, I do have the question. Maybe I will ask it for example, to SEK. Instead of today, I would say, for example, April 25th, 2025. Let me also copy that. So I will ask this question again when I deploy this agent. So let's see. I'm just testing it locally right now. There you go. It not only gave me the answer, but also because we enabled that intermediate steps to be displayed, you can see that all different components. And also, you just don't need to query. You can call a stream query. So it will start generating the answer as you call your agent. And actually, regardless of the question, you will see that it was pretty fast, but it will start printing as your agent is responding instead of waiting just for the final answer and then displaying that. This is very helpful when your agent is doing too much work and it is taking some bit of time to respond. So you want to entertain the user, not just waiting for a level. So that's how we can use a streaming query instead of just calling query. All right, moving further, now I have this agent that I want to specify again to just make sure I'm going to avoid any stateful information to make it clean and starting from scratch. This is the main part that I'm actually creating my agent here. So I need to just specify my agent's name, which is coming from on the top we specified, and then the requirements that I need to run this agent. Obviously, you need agent engine, LangChain, and again, based on your specific framework and agent, that part would be different. But before I run that, I want to also do something else. I want to also specify tracing to be true. So when the agent is deployed, I want to see the tracing and how the agent is working inside Google Cloud Tracing. If you recall, I told you how you do it, so let me show you. The only thing you need to add is just adding enabling tracing to true. That's really pretty much all you need to have for enabling Google Cloud Tracing to be able to trace all the components that we discussed. So I redefine my agent, and then if I just click on agent create, it will start actually creating my or deploying my agent through Agent Engine, and obviously will give you also a URL that you can check the progress of your agent engine creation under Google Cloud Logs. So I will pause recording. It might take a couple of minutes, and when it's done, we will come back to it shortly. All right, it just finished the deployment successfully, and as you can see, it returned me back that, okay, if you want to use this agent that you deployed on Agent Engine, you just need to get it using Agent Engine SDK, and this is actually your endpoint for fetching that agent under Agent Engine. Well, obviously, these are some of the parameters that are relevant to your project ID, and the location, but this is the main part, which is your Agent Engine ID that is hosting your agent. So to check that out, make sure it's working, I just call this remote agent we specified on the top to query that, make sure if it responds back, there you go, that means it is working. And I'm not using any local agent, I'm just using this remote agent that we just deployed together. And obviously, not just query, you can use a streaming query that I discussed in the local test. You can do the same thing when you are doing that under deployed agent on Agent Engine, that I can see the intermediate responses and then the final output. So I told you that you need a temporary Google storage bucket that we gave it a name that Agent Engine needed to create some temporary files. Just want to show you how it looked like. You'll see that Agent Engine folder is created by itself, and underneath I have requirement text. This is actually list of the Python packages that we specified when we were creating the agent. And then your agent is the pickle file and some dependencies which are compressed. That's pretty much all. And again, you don't need to be worried about, and these are not created by you. If you recall, we enabled tracing for this agent. That's why I just search Google Tracing in my GCP search bar and going to the same project that I have. and I just saw that, yes, there are a couple of span names for my agents that they were executed. And if I click on that, I will see more detailed interactions of my agent and the tool that is using when I actually go to the actual span date. For example, what I can do, I can just go for the chat Vertex AI span. And you can see I have 4 span ID. If I click on any of them, these are technically my questions that I ask. And there you go. It is all traced for me. It's talking about that exchange rate that I asked for US to SEK on the specific given date, and the model response, and then what the tool actually did, and finally what was the model name and what was the final response. You can actually click on so many details here and check what was input and outputs, how it took each step long, and as you can guess, it is extremely prominent for debugging and make sure you have monitoring capabilities of what's going on within your agents, as they can be fairly complex, and especially when you're dealing with multi-agent frameworks. All right, so that was a quick overview about what is Agent Engine, what is the main value of that, and what you need to consider actually using Agent Engine and how we can do it in action. Something that I want to highlight as well, one of the potentially even more important upcoming reason of why you need to consider deploying your agent to Agent Engine is Agent Space, which is a recent and pretty fresh product released by Google, and it's pretty evolving, that let you have a centralized place for not only searching your data, whether they're unstructured or unstructured, and also Agent Space is a centralized place for hosting all the agents. And for adding your agents or registering your agents here, you need to have them deployed potentially on Agent Engine. And if you're interested to know more about what is Agent Space, which is a totally separate product, let me know. I can create a dedicated video about it. Alright, that was all about this video. I hope you liked it. If yes, I would be very thankful if you click on like icon, and make sure you share your thoughts, questions, comments in the comment section below. Thank you so much.
Perhaps you're overvaluing what you don't have and undervaluing what you do. Think about it. Dream big, my friends, believe in yourself, and take action. Till next video, take care.